Okay. Taoiseach, given the cataclysmic circumstances that's going on in Gaza at the moment, have you spoken to your European counterparts in regards to sanctions on Israel? And what will the European Union and this country do about the terrible events that's going on in Gaza at the moment?
Thank you, Deputy, for raising the question. Ireland has, in recent weeks, engaged in several concrete initiatives regarding the conflict, all of which have been underpinned by our clear and principled position. In view of the unacceptable levels of violence being perpetrated by certain Israeli settlers against Palestinian communities in the West Bank, in particular the 7th of October 2023, I have underlined my strong support for European Union sanctions against, targeting violent or extreme Israeli settlers. This is a matter that I've raised with my European counterparts at successive meetings of the Foreign Affairs Council. During the Council meeting in February, 26 Member States indicated that they are ready to move ahead with sanctions on this issue. Ireland has called for rapid presentation of proposals in line with commitments given by the High Representative. While Ireland continues to press to agree sanctions at EU level, officials are also examining options to work in concert with a group of EU Member States to implement measures at a national level. Additionally, the Taoiseach and Spanish Prime Minister have written to Commissioner President von der Leyen expressing deep concern at the deteriorating situation in Gaza and calling for an urgent review of whether Israel is complying with its human rights obligations under the European Union-Israel Association Agreement. As the Deputy is aware, calls for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire have been and will continue to be a central priority for the government. Civilians in Gaza urgently need the fighting to stop and a significant and sustained increase in humanitarian aid. It's clear that this is the desire of the overwhelming majority of the international community, along with the immediate and unconditional release of hostages, urgent and effective humanitarian access, and the protection of civilians.
So, what we're witnessing at the moment and the last 6 months in Gaza is almost unbearable to look at. I mean, I don't know if you've seen, there was a report on BBC the other day. There was 15 children basically died of malnutrition. It was unbelievable, just seeing it. You know, imagine being there, imagine being the mother or the father of that child. Now, this is being done in real time by a state that we call a friend, that has an ambassador not too far from here. So, over 75 years, what has this country ever done to hold Israel to account? It's done nothing. It's done just lip service. Just absolute lip service, Mr. Taoiseach. And you come here every week saying the exact same things. When is Israel going to be punished and be brought to account for the crimes that they're committing at this moment in time? Where? Show me where. I mean, your party in the last Dáil supported the Occupied Territories Bill. Now you're hiding. Now that's a very limited bill, Taoiseach. A very limited bill. Can you imagine if that was enacted? Can you imagine?
You get a chance to come back.
First of all, Deputy, I do follow the BBC reports, and I pay tribute to the BBC because I think they've brought some very sharp insights and have revealed and exposed a lot, given notwithstanding the limits and constraints of how they can operate within Gaza. The situation is shocking, and we have condemned it, and I have condemned it. I disagree with your characterisation of Irish foreign policy. I would invite you to go to Israel. No, sorry, hear me out a second. I didn't finish the sentence. I'd invite you to go to Israel, meet with the Israeli government, and find out firsthand. Listen to me, please. Would you listen? I'm answer your question. Ask them firsthand what they think of the Irish government's position or the Irish people's position. Just ask them. They don't think we did nothing. Just leave it at that. And the point I make this: we have shown leadership on all the concrete issues that have impact for many, many years. We were the first European Union state to call for the Palestinian right to a homeland. It was the late Brian Lenihan Sr. who did that way, way back. If you go to Palestine, if you go to any of the Arab partner countries in that region, they appreciate Ireland's principled position on this issue. We want an immediate humanitarian ceasefire. The horrors that people in Gaza are experiencing are shocking. They should come to an end immediately.
I acknowledge that Ireland has done more than the rest of the European Union in relation to, calling out what Israel has been doing, not only in the last 6 months, but the last number. I acknowledge that. If you go to the Middle East, people from Palestine will be very kind of generous of what the Irish people have done, the empathy, that we've shown. But we haven't done enough. So, for example, a good example, the Occupied Territories Bill, which your party supported in the last Dáil. Now you're not supporting. Now, can you imagine if that was enacted? Can you imagine that as a country, a small country in the European Union, that we says from here on in, any goods that come in from the occupied West Bank or Gaza, it will be illegal. Now, can you imagine what signal that would send? That would send a huge signal to not only kind of Zionist Israel, but across the world, that Ireland as a country is going to do more than has been done in the last 5 or 6 decades. So I'd ask you this: we need to do more, Thursday. We can't let this barbarity go on. Israel needs to be called to account for the barbarity that it's inflicting on the Palestinian people.
You know the answer to the Occupied Territories Bill. European Union has legal competence when it comes to trade. But by the way, I'm not sure at all. I don't agree with you that it would have the impact you're saying it would have. I think what we're doing in terms of, and Europe has been proactive in certain respects.
People were saying that in the 1980s against South Africa.
You've asked questions.
Deputy, let the
I'm just making the point. You don't allow me to answer the question that you've put. And I've allowed you, I don't interrupt you, Deputy, and I just want to make the point that Europe actually has taken steps in respect of trying to identify goods that come from the settlements, and that we would in position to boycott those. But in terms of, I think the decision that we've taken as a country within the European, the most effective one again, but it's going to be difficult, by the way, to get unanimity on this, is through questioning on the Trade Association Agreement. Because there are clauses there in terms of human rights clauses and obligations on Israel. And Ireland and Spain have written to the President of the Commission, and this will be discussed preliminary at the FAC, but then ultimately will have to be reviewed by the Commission. But that is practical sort of steps that can have an effect. It's going to take some time, because the idea of getting unanimity, but at least it will enable a review to take place of an agreement that is in place between the European Union and Israel on the basis of what they're doing in Gaza.